generally, how are you doing as we got through one of the worst weeks in 2022?
Sure, I'm doing great. When it's a seller's market, I'm a seller. When it's a buyer's market, I'm a buyer, right? So, I guess I'm a buyer right now.
Um, ARC is the main fund that you track, ARC Innovation, and you've been doing that for about almost 2 years now, year and a half. They've been down pretty badly, but from what I've seen, they're getting about $1.5 billion more of inflows. Can you kind of make sense of the macro level thesis around ARC, why they're still getting inflows, and do you think Cathie can still get this 40% CAGR? I know I threw a lot at you, so just dice it up however you want.
Yeah. Let's take that one step at a time. First of all, let me back up. It's great to be here. I'm always super excited to talk about ARK Invest, Palantir, and all of the other topics we're going to get into. That being said, let's talk about ARK Invest because I know there's a lot of like shaky conviction out there and a lot of kind of mismatched expectations, right? So 40% CAGR, I have no idea. Like I know I'm wearing an ARK Invest t-shirt right now, but I can't predict the future any more than they can. But basically how their funds work at a high level. So let's tackle CAGR first, compound annual growth rate. They they try to have this minimum hurdle rate of return of 15% per year, right? So doubling every 5 years. And so back in like February or January of 2021, so like 15 months ago at their peak, they were still buying stocks, right? So the stocks that they were buying implies they thought that those stocks could double from that peak over the next 5 years. The first big misconception is that the stocks will go up and to the right only, right? So, we've obviously gone basically just down and to the right over the last 15 months if you're a growth stock holder, ARK Invest holder, and definitely since November, like basically straight down and to the right for sure. So now the implication there is the stocks that she was buying 15 months ago, they've dropped by a factor of 5, so now they not only will 2x, they'll like 10x, right? And Cathie Wood has literally gone on the record saying she expects Teladoc, which I'm sure we'll get into in the future, to 10x from these prices, literally from $35 to $350 per share, not including things like dilution. Like she's on the record on TV saying that, right? I don't know if I generally believe exactly that math, right? Like no one can predict 5 years, 4 years, 6 years. But the special thing about Cathie Wood's funds are how they come to those conclusions. Their analysts do a very different job than traditional Wall Street analysts, and they see a lot of things that traditional Wall Street analysts don't see, like the value of big data, like how these platforms come together and sort of empower a whole wide group of different users. In Teladoc's case, that would be clinics, hospitals, patients, doctors, insurers, right? Like all these different groups that aren't in the business of building this like medically certified tech stack. Teladoc kind of takes that for them. So they've got this like fresh take, right? So let me pause there because that's probably the good CAGR component, and I'll answer whatever questions you have around that before moving on to the other one.
Why did ARK not sell Shopify at 1,700 and TDoc at 300? Like, is their research team that naive? And I don't say that in a condescending way, but I'm just like, did they really think it was just going to keep going? Did they not understand how overinflated when a picture of a rock is selling for $4 million? Like, is that a thesis breaker already on the team itself that the analysts are too young? They just don't get it? Or how do you think of that?
Yeah. Well, so go ahead.
I was going to say, well, Amit, that's a bit of an unfair criticism of them only for
no, it's not.
Reason.
I'm not saying I get the whole market crash. I'm just saying you have a stock at all-time highs and you're not taking any profits.
Well, that's the thing. What do you consider an all-time high? Because you know what? They had an all-time high every single day. No, I'm just saying every single day of 2001 was an all-time high. Imagine they had sold in January of 2001. They would have missed the all-time high in February. They would have missed the all-time high in March. They would have missed the all-time high in April. No one can predict what an all-time high is.
If she is such a, and I watched In the Know religiously back in December, January, if she understood the macro at such a deep level with supply chains, inflations, they were just wrong on the time period, right? They knew there was like this issue coming. They were just wrong with the transitory stuff. I guess my question simply is, it's not just another hedge fund that's going to just keep accumulating these assets and then like to me, it's insane to think that we don't sell Shopify at 1,700 because it's going to get to 3,400. Now, it's easy to say that in hindsight, but if you're paying hundreds they make a 2% fee off the assets under management, like the LPs that give them their money, or the banks, they pay them to be smart enough to know when to mitigate some risk and to sell. So I understand not everyone's perfect, but my question is, if you have these growth stocks that are artificially pumped, and they're artificially pumped because of liquidity, and you're not selling, like, does that make you feel like it's a little hard to trust them anymore?
But Amit, it goes back to, what would they have done if they had just sold? Let's say they sold Shopify.
They would buy GM like they're doing now.
You see, that's the whole point that I'm trying to say. That right now, I would actually like to ask Alex, like, what is the purpose of trying to go from innovation to something that's more legacy? Like, so when they stayed in Teladoc, they stayed in all these innovation companies, they have this innovation thesis that's built for the next 5 years, right? For them, if they sold out of their positions, right, that's almost like confirming that, hey, we're at the top. That's it. There's no more innovation. We can't live by our own thesis anymore. And what would they have gone into? A cash position? In which case people would have said, wait, I'm just investing in Cathie Wood. Right. So she just holds on to cash. I could just pull my cash right now.
60% of the fund.
Yeah, but hold on. Because this is a really important point too. They actually can't go into cash, right? Like, one of the rules of ETFs, fully invested, actively managed ETFs, is like they can't hold cash. So at best, they would be holding these cash-like positions. And then we can argue that they are breaking their other thesis, which is this 15% minimum hurdle rate of return. So it's like part of they have structured their funds in a way where they've written themselves into a corner, right? The only thing we can do, the only thing we will take your money and do with it, is invest aggressively in innovation and try to get you the best 5-year returns, right? I agree with you, Amit, in the sense that 5 years is a slippery slope, because it's a rolling 5-year window. Every day, that window adjusts by a day because they make new investment decisions that day, right? So, like, for sure, the strategy is hard to follow. And so that's kind of why ticker symbol U in my channel, like, exists at all, is because here's this fund manager who thinks very, very differently from the rest of the market. She makes moves every single day, which is very different from guys like Michael Burry, Warren Buffett, right? Like, she's this great investor in good times and seemingly a terrible investor in bad times, right? It's like the sentiment of your analysis, I would say, right? Like, the thesis is clearly busted. She's gone down 66%, if not 75% in some of her funds. She's not managing risk. So let me explain why that thesis is wrong. And it's not because it's a bad thesis. It's because the ARK funds are specialty products. They're not meant to maximize your returns. They're meant to expose your portfolio to innovation as a niche product, right? So what does a retirement fund do? They're all in value stocks. They're trying to be very non-aggressive. They're trying to invest in decent, modest returns at low risk, right? But the market's choppy and economic conditions are always changing. COVID happens, technology takes over. What do those big, giant, safe pension funds want to do? They want to expose their funds to a little bit of innovation, right? And what that really means, like, in investor terms, in like not interesting, cool technology Tesla terms, is they want to diversify away from the indexes. How do you do that? Like, are they about to become stock pickers and pick the next Tesla, the next Teladoc, and avoid the next Peloton and the next Skills Gaming and the next, whatever, like, kind of stocks that ended up not being great businesses under the hood? No, they're going to trust somebody who's made an entire business out of only innovation. What are they going to do? They're going to take 1% of their massive portfolio and put it in RK, and that's it, right? Like, so the ARK Invest funds are meant to be slotted in strategically into all of these other portfolios. You're not meant to take 80% of your portfolio and make it RK, right? Like, there's a reason the indexes are the indexes. Like, Google's a great stock, guys. Nvidia's a great stock. Like, Cathie consciously doesn't choose those stocks. So you have a chance to have your cake and eat it too by buying Nvidia stock. In my opinion, great stock, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. and ARK-K, right? Which like has Tesla at the top, Teladoc, and whatever. You can do both of those things, but Cathie Wood clearly isn't doing both for you, right?
But the thing I'm confused about is I get its exposure to growth, but if someone buys in at 150 and then they go down to 45 and they don't know if they're ever going to get back to 150, their exposure to growth like screwed them over because this person didn't take profits at the top like a good fund manager theoretically should.
No.
So
She's
like,
not there to take profits. She's there to expose you to growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you gotta get but she's taking profits on Tesla for a reason. I understand 10% of the fund, but she also thinks, oh shit, like we made a decent amount of money on this. Correct?
Nope.
Is there any disagreement?
Incorrect. No, there is, because the reason she's taking profits on Tesla is because she thinks there's a better opportunity somewhere else in her fund. She thinks it has a lower future rate of returns. You don't know that the dollars she took out of Tesla went to GM. You don't know that, right? Like
she literally
it could have been a stock
Tesla
she bailed out of.
On the same day she buys GM. Like,
yep, and you don't know which shares of Tesla she sold, right? Like,
no, I get it. I'm not trying to be super technical or like idiosyncratic here. I'm just saying that if Shopify's at 1,700 and you're paying your analysts hundreds of millions of dollars in percentage fees, they can't come to the conclusion. And again, I'm not as smart as them. I get it. I'm just saying, if they're getting paid that much money, they can come to the conclusion saying, oh shit, the Fed's going to do quantitative tightening. Eventually rates are going to go up. Inflation is not transitory. That's what they're paid to do. We should probably take a little bit, just like they're doing with Tesla. They're taking some of Tesla at $1,000 a share, right? $1 trillion.
And put it where? Like
they're putting Teladoc or Coinbase or whatever. But my point is, they took the profit. Like, why can't they do that with some of the other big names as well?
Well, so they like it's kind of like this wishy-washy thing, right? So I agree with you as an investor who can have a large cash position. I was prudent. I took a lot of money off the table. Besides starting the portfolio that I ran for my channel, I actually took a lot of money off the table in October, September. I didn't time the top. I'm not smart enough to do that. November was still a good month, and then it went way down, right? The writing was on the wall. I think we all listened to the same few podcasts, and everyone was talking about, like, Elon Musk said he was out, right? He was selling Tesla shares, so there was a lot of writing on the wall. And I agree with you personally, right? Like, if I had all the power in the world, what would I do? Like, and I was a Berkshire Hathaway, right? What did Warren Buffett do? He had a huge cash position. Totally. That's it. I'm not smarter than Warren Buffett. If that's what he's doing, that's what I'm doing, right? Like, but Cathie Wood can't do that. She can't hold a giant cash position. So is there a
structural problem to owning that fund then if she has to buy at the top and literally never sell?
Yes, and that's why you shouldn't. Yes, that's why you shouldn't hold that fund. 90% of your portfolio shouldn't be that fund. It should be the amount of your portfolio you want exposed to long-term innovation, not growth. They happen to be growth companies. Like, that's one of those like stock factors that we can break things up by, right? 30% or more revenue growth, high growth company. But that's not what her funds are designed for. She's not a growth investor. That's like that's a category of stock, right? She's 6 kinds of investors, right? She's a genomics investor in ARK-G, autonomy and robotics, blockchain technology and fintech, right? Energy storage. There's probably some space exploration in there now between ARK-X and ARK-Q. And then, like, whatever general bucket we're putting in, artificial intelligence, automation, the Palantirs of the world, right? Like, That's what her research team is set up to do. And guess what? In some of those really awesome innovation sectors, there may not be a really good fit stock-wise for your portfolio.